Jason Sherman. Great conversation with Jason. At 2 years old, he was playing violin. His parents were educators. He was doing math problems on a television show. He was, really, really achieving. I was going to say overachieving, but it's not overachieving, but achieving these high-level things at a young age. Eventually, he started many businesses. We talk about his filmmaking. He just released a film about NASA and interviewed all these great people. We spend a decent amount of the conversation on artificial intelligence and where it is. He has another company and he's got some AI technology that is available. Very interesting perspective on where he thinks it is now and where it's going. But his other answers on discipline and some of those standard questions I like to ask are really, really, really interesting in his perspective. 49-year-old man and just has an incredible, different kind of upbringing. What motivates him is different. It's just a really great conversation with Jason. Jason, thank you very much. And thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word, discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission? How do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Jason Sherman, thank you for your time. You're a classically trained violinist.
I am, yeah. I learned at the age of 2.
Whoa.
And I remember vividly playing the violin as a little kid with the little violin. So yeah, it's definitely music was like the first thing I really enjoyed doing growing up.
At the age of 2. So when did you learn how to read music?
Well, I would think that at the time, they taught us sheet music at the time. We used like the Suzuki violin method. Wow. So it's like really, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and things like that,
Sure.
But I learned how to read and how to do math and how to play the violin at I was on like TV when I was like 2 or 3 doing like complicated math problems.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. What are the commonalities between math and violin?
I don't think it's a commonality between different industries. I think it's more along the lines of just teaching a kid really early on. And like most parents don't teach their kids, they just expect school to do that. But school can only do so much, So my parents were both school teachers. So it just kind of so happened that I had teacher parents, which taught me everything, I got lucky in that sense.
Do you still play violin now?
Sometimes I practice some songs on the piano or the violin. I bought a theremin a couple of years ago and started playing the theremin. I made a couple of videos where I play the theremin, the piano, and the violin all together, like different parts, and then I put all 3 of the videos together so you can see me playing all of them together. It's kind of cool.
What's a theremin?
A theremin it's the first electronic instrument ever built where it's like a wooden box with like a big loop of metal, and you just wave your hands around it, and it does like like, it's a sci-fi instrument, really. So I don't know. I like to try new things. Let's just put it that way,
So before the age of 18, these formidable years, it was math, it was art, it's all this put together.
Yeah, I was early on. I remember when I was I was in middle school. Is really the time that I remember really trying to create things. When I was a kid, when I was like elementary school, and when I was in a private school before that, when I was like, between the ages of like, let's say 5 and 10, I was like programming on a computer and creating my own board game and like trying things, like trying to do creative things. I was publishing books when I was a kid. Then when I was in middle school is when I realized, oh, I can actually sell the things that I create. So I started creating my own comic book and selling it to classmates. I started becoming like a dungeon master for D&D and like telling all the stories for the people that were playing. I would find products in Europe that I could sell here in America at a markup of, 200% and making money as a 11-year-old doing that, so I'm selling mixtapes for, I was always finding ways to make and sell things. And that was like my early entrepreneurial kind of, I guess, school. It was really doing it myself, just figuring it out.
Did your parents teach you curiosity? How did you get so curious at such a young age?
It's a really good question. I wish I had a good answer for you. I think all parents and all kids and all teachers always say to everyone, you can do what you dream, what you dream you can do. Like there's nothing off limits. They always tell kids that you can be the president of the United States. No, you can't. I don't believe as far as they say you can be an astronaut and you can do this. It's some disciplines and some industries are kind of off limits because not that the capability is not there, but the desire and the determination and the sacrifice on those levels that if you're a president, you're going to sacrifice a whole ton of your life to the political sphere. If you're going to be an astronaut, that's hard. You need to train for like half your life. Doctor, same thing. So I figured entrepreneur was my thing because I like doing lots of different things and not focusing on one. So as an entrepreneur, I can do music. I can write books. I can make movies. I can build tech platforms. I can build apps. I can do nonprofit projects. I can help the community with events. I can do so many different things because I'm not stuck in one little basket of doctor or lawyer or whatever, So curiosity, I think, is more about wanting to be creative and trying new things and challenging yourself. Because once the challenge is gone, I'm kind of bored.
What frustrated you in those years before 18?
Oh man, I was not frustrated as a kid. I had rose-colored glasses on. I thought everything was great. I thought, I was having a blast. I was traveling around the world. I was, in school. I was going to college. The internet had just been invented. So I was kind of part of this big thing. And I knew it was a big thing. I knew there was something happening when Google and eBay and Amazon and all these companies started popping up. And I started building my own websites around 1994, 95. Like I was right in the beginning of that stuff. And I saw what was going to happen next, but I might not have taken advantage of it because I was still young and I was still trying to have fun, and I was still trying to figure out my place in the world, So everyone's always going to have the regrets of like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. But, at the end of the day, you can't control what happened. You can only control what happens next. And I guess that's maybe not curiosity, but the fire in my belly said, you could have done all these things in the 90s and early aughts, but you didn't. So then maybe do it now. Like push harder. And when you see something that makes you think what it did back then, instead of being on the sidelines, get in front of it. Take charge of it and try it and be afraid and make mistakes and be uncomfortable, but do what you think is right, and that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years.
Jason, what do people get wrong about AI?
That's a loaded question, man. Oh man. Well, what do they get wrong about AI? I mean, the robots are not going to kill us tomorrow. Let's just, the Terminator is not going to be back tomorrow. Maybe, maybe Arnold will come around the corner in 10 years. We don't know, right? It's possible.
You're talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator movies, of course.
Right. But
Yes.
we don't know. We don't know if that's going to happen. Look, it's possible, right? Because we are seeing the robots in the military. I think people are giving AI a bad rap these days. I notice a lot of hesitation. People are like hesitating to say that they even want to use it or include it in their business, or it's wasting all this water. The data centers are ruining our cities. That might be true, right? I'm not going to say that it's not causing energy prices to go up and it's not messing up the water infrastructure, sure. But so is a lot of other industries, way worse than AI. AI is a literal drop in the bucket compared to like emissions from factories and car production and, global warming and everything. So people have to kind of look at it that way. Also, they're saying AI is taking everyone's jobs. Okay, fine. We've seen over the last 5 years AI slowly taking thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of, lower level jobs. Tedious, menial labor that people don't want to do anyway. But when it comes to what I call the human in the loop work, where you need a human to operate the AI or do the difficult critical thinking skills, creativity, curiosity, AI doesn't have those things. AI only does what it has knowledge about. It doesn't know how to think up something new. It only knows what's already out there. So what I'm at least seeing now is more people in senior positions to control the AI agents versus not even having humans in the loop at all. So where you might have had, let's say in an accounting company, you might have had 100 accountants doing all the spreadsheets and, receivables work, everything. And now AI can do a lot of the entry level positions, but you still need at least 20 senior level accountants to make sure that the agents are doing the right work, right? And make sure that it's not messing anything up. So you still need people there. It's just not as many of them. So I think there's a misconception of AI is taking our jobs. Is it, or is it making our jobs better, easier, faster, more productive, allowing us to produce more results, and also opening doors, right? It's opening doors for people who previously didn't have enough money to hire a graphic designer or to hire a film producer or to hire, a ghostwriter or whatever it is. Now they can actually do these projects that are in their heads. And now it's kind of like democratizing knowledge for the rest of the world.
These companies with these large layoff announcements and blaming AI, is it AI or are they just trimming the fat?
Trimming the fat. There's every company in the history of companies, you'll see that executives don't do a lot of work, right? Even middle management, it's the same old meme. This could have been an email. This meeting could have been an email. You know what I mean? Like, my girlfriend works for a Fortune 500 company, and it's the same thing. It's always meetings. And she always tells me they could have been an email, so do you really need all these people? If you ever watch Office Space and the main character, did you get that memo? And then the next guy comes, did you get that memo, Peter? And there's so many people asking if he got the memo. And then at the corporate kind of the questionnaire, they're like, what don't you like? Well, do you like getting asked the same question by 3 different bosses? You don't need those guys, right? So yeah, I think that they're just making the excuse of AI is taking, but it's not taking the jobs. I think maybe a little bit, but not as much as they're saying it is.
Have the AI leaders, so the ones, let's just say the leaders, ones in charge of these LLM companies, and there's, 4 or 5 major ones now, have they done the best job in really kind of talking about the the goodness and what the benefits of AI is?
The people in charge are more interested in getting the big contracts, the government contracts, getting the corporate contracts. They're not. I think they're more like the proof is in the pudding type of situation where they're like, look what the AI does. Look what the world is doing with the AI. Look at the other companies. Like, for example, our company, we have a bunch of AI services and platforms that we built. And when people see what our companies do, all the big players, we'll say the big five, they benefit from that because we're showing the world how a very strict AI with regulations and rules and guardrails that we've put in can operate in a business properly and benefiting those businesses in a big way. The top five, they don't have to say that. We're saying it for them. And how many more companies like ours are out there?
How do you use AI, Jason?
Personally or in business?
Let's start with personally.
Oh man, in which way don't I use AI is the real question. Let's start from a perspective of where some people, maybe they're thinking of this, maybe they're not. How many projects do you personally have in your back pocket, in a Google Drive, in a Dropbox that's been sitting there for 5 or 10 years that you maybe started but you couldn't do because of limitations of some kind, right? So I've gone through those, and I got to tell you, I had a lot of those. The reason I say had is because I've built them all. Whether it was a full-fledged trading card game that I could not do the graphics for, helping me with the mechanics, whether it was building platforms that were just too difficult to build by myself, whether it was a fiction podcast that I had really good ideas for, but I couldn't do the voice work because I'd have to hire 10 actors, whether it was making music for that podcast, graphics for all sorts of different promotional material and advertising. I used to have to hire people or spend time on Photoshop or Canva, and it took forever to do all that work. Marketing material, blog posts, websites, outlines for books, outlines for movies, research. The last movie I just finished, we just got a notification this morning that we were selected as a finalist in a film festival. So I'm super excited. Before the Moon, it's a NASA documentary. Do you know how much work goes into researching a documentary subject? It's like 6 months of the work is research. Yeah. So using AI, not in the film, but using AI as a research assistant, I was able to cut that down to maybe 1 or 2 months.
Right.
That's huge. I mean, that's huge. Not only cutting the time down to find the research, but also to find things that I would have never in a million years found on my own. It's impossible. It's able to find things that I don't even think about finding. So finding the material, cutting the time down, I was able to make a movie in a year versus a year and a half, 2 years. And it's already in the film festivals. That's unheard of. This is my 4th movie. The previous 3 always took 2 years each. This one took 1. So it cut a movie maker. And I did it by myself. I didn't really have a lot of help. I usually have a lot of help. The AI was a lot of help. But the movie itself is fully human made. No AI was used to make the film. That's something I'm proud of.
And Jason, how do you handle the hallucinations, inaccuracies, or just the way, a lot of the AIs, the LLMs just want to make you happy and tell you things that you want to hear? How do you handle these things?
Well, I personally train them to not do that. You can't stop hallucinations, but you can do your research, make sure the source material is right, make sure where it's getting its facts. You don't always have it tell you where it's getting its facts from. You can look it up online because you always have Google, right? You always have Wikipedia. You can also go to the library if you want to go old school. But if you train your AI to be a devil's advocate, and say, no, I want you to make sure that you look at it from the other perspective, make sure that you're not just agreeing with me, make sure that you always go look for the facts. I want you to back it up with sources, always give me the sources. You can train AI to be very specific. With my AI companies, Vengo, Campus Pixel, Apex Modules, we've done that. We've built these guardrails around no hallucinations whatsoever, never go outside of the conversation scope ever, Never talk about competition, never talk about industries that don't belong. Always talk about what we train you to do, and it's never failed because of that.
In another year from now, Jason, what do you predict? Where do you think AI will be?
How about the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Because it keeps changing so fast. A year's a long time in the AI world. A year in the mobile app world and smartphones and internet world and electricity world, automobile world, a year was nothing.
Right.
You needed like 10, 20 years, you know? AI, a year. I mean, let's talk about what we've seen in the last year. We've seen video creation has become really Hollywood. I mean, it really has become almost hard to tell which one's which. Same with image creation. I mean, now it's last year, not so much. This year, realistic. The amount of knowledge that the AI now has is 10 times better. You know, they're getting more data from more companies like Reddit, which is like real data, which is bad for Reddit, but good for the AI because it's seeing like actual conversations between people. So a year from now, I mean, what I would like to see, because there's still limitations. And the reason I know there are limitations is because when I'm working on, let's say, a marketing video using some AI platforms, because there's tons of them, and I'm testing out 5 or 6 different platforms to see which one works best for like an AI marketing video, it's still very time consuming. It's still very difficult. It still causes you to learn how to use a platform of some kind, and you got to learn how to use the tools. I would love to see something be a little bit more automated, you know, where I literally feed it the script and it figures it out on its own. It's getting there. I'm using a couple tools that are close, but it's not perfect enough. You can't just release the video as is, and that's the problem. So when you see these really high production quality movies that people post online, there's a really popular one that's been circulating for the last month. It's a fake movie trailer of Neil deGrasse Tyson as the hero, and like Bill Gates and Stephen Hawking as the villain. And you see, it's really funny, but it's also really, really well done. People see that video, they say, "Oh, that's cool. It's an AI video. It's cool. It's really awesome, great, etc." But people don't realize how long it took to make that video, probably a month or 2, and how expensive it was in tokens or credits, whatever you want to call it, to make that video. It was probably $1,000 or $2,000.
Wow.
So, you know, people think it might have taken 10 minutes. No. So I'd like to see it be 10 minutes. Maybe in a year it'll get there. Maybe in a year we'll start to see the beginnings of more automated AI agents, because they're still not really automated. Here's my analogy to you. Although we do have self-driving cars, 99% of them are not. You have to be a human in the car with the wheel, driving the car. And until it is fully self-driving, it's just not going to be that useful to most people, because you still have to be driving that car. So we got to get to the point where the AI is fully autonomous. It knows what you need every day. Maybe in the morning when you wake up, you speak to whatever and say, okay, today I need to research this, and this, and I need to make this marketing material. I need to make an ad for this brand. I need to come up with an outline for a script. I need to research this movie. You just list it all out. And then by the time you're done your breakfast and you get to your computer, it's all done. Versus having to sit at your computer for X amount of hours and actually be the human doing all of those things. That's the thing we're missing right now.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. You think there'll be a time, Jason, where there'll be I don't want to say the death, but the less emphasis on actual applications and platforms. And we will have an LLM AI type interface that will then go out and access those. I need to travel to Los Angeles next weekend. You put it into your LLM, it goes to the platforms, calculates flights, etc., hotels, comes back to you. Do you think the primary interface will be some kind of LLM and it will access the resources directly versus you doing them?
They already exist. So I actually reviewed a hardware gadget called the Rabbit R1. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. It's on my YouTube channel. And it's like a little pocket device with a screen that does that, right? It lets you see things. It lets you plug in your information, your logins, and it would go to like the Expedia and book the plane tickets, buy the pizza, have it delivered to your house, all that stuff, right? So that's already in existence. I know OpenClaw, you can let it loose and which is extremely dangerous. That's why I'm not doing it. But you can allow these AI to, yes, take control of your bank account, all your accounts, your email, and just let it out. They already operate that way. The hesitation for most people is what I said, it's dangerous, right? You're giving them the security risk here. You're giving it access to things that, what if it wipes out your bank account? What if it buys a stock that dies tomorrow? Like I can give you a million examples as to why it's a bad idea to do it, which is probably why the answer to your question is probably not will it be that way? It's will people want to do that, right? And I think if you remove the human in the loop from control over certain things, then what are we really doing on this planet, right? If we're not really doing anything anymore, if we're not making decisions, let's call it what it is. If we're not making decisions anymore, then we're no longer in control. Then the robots, let them take over. Because at that point, we're just meat bags plugged into the matrix, giving them fuel, right? And that's how we got to look at it.
What does filmmaking do for you? You've made many. You've won awards. What outlet? What does that? What is it like? How does it help? What thrill do you get?
Man, it is by far, out of all the things I've done, I feel as though it's probably the most meaningful aspect of my entrepreneurial career is making movies. What I like, let's talk about what I like about them. What I like about movies is you can find a story that's never been told before, right? That's number one. Find a community that rallies behind that story, so you already have a built-in audience. Those two things are so powerful in the world of selling something. And then you get to use your creativity, right, that we talked about, fully engaged 100% on exposing this story and building this world and talking to people in the world, interviewing people, traveling and finding new things, and putting it all down on film for the world to see. And unlike a tech platform that goes on for 30 years or any other project that takes forever to finish, a movie is done in a year, give or take, right? And then it's done. It's finished. You can close the book on it and say, the movie is complete. Here you go. And then you get the amazing, overwhelming feeling of watching audiences enjoy your film and clap at the film and laugh at the film and cry at the film and praise the film. And it's just this feeling of like, I'm connecting with all of these people through my creativity. Nothing can top that.
And how does it start with you? The process of making a movie.
An idea falls right into my lap. That is it's a seed that just gets planted in my head, and I may not jump on it immediately, but it's that seed that's growing into a plant in the back of my head, and it's just itching at my ear and saying, "Hey, don't forget about that idea." And then finally, I find some time. I'm like, okay, I'm available now. I have some bandwidth. I could, because when you make a movie, you can't be busy on other projects. You have to be 100% fully focused for about a year on making this movie. So I mean, yeah, I'm juggling companies at the same time, but there are certain moments when you're just in sales mode versus development mode. When you're in just sales mode and you're not in development mode, you're no longer putting out fires. You're no longer managing developers. You're no longer pushing requests to GitHub. You're no longer like checking code. You're no longer doing QA. All that stuff is time consuming. When you're just in sales mode, that means you're doing sales and talking to customers, et cetera. You have a lot of free time to work on something. And I can't sit idly by during that time. So that's when I work on a movie. And it seems as though I've been working on one movie every 5 years.
Wow.
Even though I'd like to make one every year. But again, bandwidth, focus, time, and it's exhausting making a movie. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, it must be very, very exhausting. And it's so exciting. Has it been, I don't want to say the easiest, but do the tools that are available now make it less difficult than ever to create a film?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we look at Hollywood, up until, I guess, the 90s, when it was all like film, like actual Kodak film and big Panasonic cameras and even IMAX cameras, all the equipment was so expensive, and you had to do traditional film sets. There was no really CGI yet. Jurassic Park really kind of started that. Star Wars with the practical effects, but you couldn't do that. You didn't have $50 million to hire, ILM or, any other company to do that work. So no, you could tell, like Blair Witch Project was a really good, good example of a story that was just a couple of people with the camcorders in the woods. And that kind of started that whole found footage genre, right? Paranormal Activity, My Own Bucks County Massacre, like all these movies that came after that. And then digital cameras, right? That's when things changed. Now I can buy, which I did for Before the Moon, a 4K Netflix approved camera that can contend with like the $1 billion budgets.
Amazing.
So yeah, now I can make a movie like they. Now, do I have a cast and a crew? Do I have Brad Pitt? Scarlett Johansson? No. You know what I mean? Do I have the best audio producers and gaffers and best boys and grips and directors of photography and assistants? No, I don't have any of that because I don't have the $20 million budget. But as you see right now, the top two movies in the box office, Obsession and Backrooms, are two YouTube stars that made movies for less than $1 million, and they're beating out Star Wars. So that tells you that things are changing.
And Jason, what do you do with the haters? What do you do with the ones that that are just the trolls out there? How do you handle that?
You don't handle it. You just let it go, and I'll tell you why. I learned something a long time ago in the 90s. I learned this when I was a DJ. And I was actually a pretty well-known DJ producer. And I got a lot of haters on, back then, message boards talking crap about me, right? But what were they doing? Talking about me. My name kept getting mentioned more and more and more. So people were like, well, who's this guy? All publicity is good publicity. Because if people are talking, even if there's like a, I don't want to really dive into this, but like, look at all the sex tapes out there and how they launched the careers of how many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all the tabloids that help people just keep talking. As soon as someone's not talked about anymore, they're kind of gone. You know what I mean? Like they're no longer in the limelight. So I feel like you want to be a hater. Look, my Facebook page for Before the Moon, if you look at it, there's almost 35,000 followers. We hit 10 million views on our videos in the last couple months. That's insane. I've never seen anything like that for a movie before it was released. Look at the haters on there commenting about how space is fake and astronauts aren't real and the moon is the moon.
Yeah.
Keep commenting.
Yeah.
Keep going. Because you're giving me more publicity.
I heard this one analogy, Jason, I always remember, where the eagle flies, of course, and the crow is the only bird that'll attack an eagle. So it'll get on its back and start pecking at it. Now, the eagle doesn't try to wave it off right away. It increases altitude because it knows at a certain altitude the crow can't handle it. So when it gets to that altitude, the crow just falls right off. So of course, when the haters are there pecking at you, continue to rise and it'll just fall away.
Yep.
So tell me about Before the Moon, big project.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, like I said, I just finished it a couple months ago and submitted it to film festivals. It's a NASA documentary that tells the story of, believe it or not, my little small town here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, called Warminster, where the NADC, which is this base around the corner where all the astronauts would come to train on the world's largest and most powerful centrifuge at the time. Now, this was built before NASA existed in the 40s and 50s, which is crazy. So to think that this massive, huge centrifuge was right around the corner from my house, training John Glenn, Neil Armstrong, etc., before there was a NASA, nobody knows this story. I didn't know this story. I lived here my whole life. And so when I discovered this, I was like, why does no one know about this? There's some information online, but very limited. Once again, I had to do research. And I started interviewing all sorts of people that worked at the NADC and the centrifuge. Then I realized, well, wait a minute. NASA astronauts that are still alive trained on the centrifuge and would fly their T-38s into the NADC on their planes to get to the base. So I started reaching out to NASA people and getting a hold of them and interviewing them. So I had to go to Houston. I had to go to Cape Canaveral. I had to interview, these astronauts in person and NASA engineers like Gene Kranz, flight director, the legend Gene Kranz. So this story has never been told before. It features a lot of untold stories, a lot of never before seen footage that no one's ever seen before. And let's see what happens. I'm a finalist in one festival as of today. So let's see if I can win a couple of these.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And we have a screening in private here at the Centrifuge, July 18th. So anybody who's buying tickets that's selling fast, they can actually see it in person on July 18th, which is the moon landing anniversary weekend.
Wow. So Jason, journalism, technology, film, entrepreneurship, what is there a common thread that holds some of these passions together?
I thought about that. It's funny because people have asked me, it's like, why did you write books? Why are you doing music? Why are you making movies? Podcasts? I guess it's a good question. I really have never been able to figure out a good answer to that because besides the fact that each one of them requires the same level of dedication, expertise, and then marketing, because you have to always market the product, they're all very similar in that way. So let's say I make a song on my music studio. I have to now market that song. If I write a book, I have to then market the book. If I make a movie, I have to market the movie. If I make a tech platform, I have to market they're all the same. It's like you create a product, you help it grow like a child. It becomes a young adult. People start using it. They like it. You have to get it out in the world. It's like raising a kid. So I don't have any actual children, but I feel like all of my projects are children because I had to help them grow and help them go out to the world, So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's, just kind of compensating for not having actual kids. It's like I'm just making my own kids somehow. And along the way, Along the way, I noticed that part of what I like about doing these projects is I meet people. And I'm also meeting younger people who don't have a chance to break into the industry. So I let them come in as an intern, learn as much as they possibly can, and then go off into the world with all that knowledge. So I'm kind of helping kids in a way, maybe not my kids, but they feel like my kids in a way. Right. So I'm helping them learn something and then go off. And a lot of them have gone on to do some amazing things.
Impact. Jason, how old are you?
I'm 49. I'll be 50 this November.
Very nice. Great age. So is there a belief that you hold that most people disagree with?
Oh, man. Well, everyone my whole life has always said, you got to get a job, get the house, get the family and kids. Like that's the thing. It's the job. And I did start out after college working at places like IBM and other, IT companies, and I did Y2K updates for a whole bunch of hotels in the city, in 2000. But once 2005 came around, that was about 7 years into my corporate life. I actually got laid off from that last job because I made myself obsolete. And I helped this antiquated company totally transform into like an internet age entity that was able to now start selling their products online and things like that. And they were earning like $1 million a month because of what I built for them. So I wasn't doing any more work. I was kind of sitting around, which the writing was on the wall. I knew I was out. So I got laid off, and I made a kind of a pact to myself that I would never go back to work for someone else ever again. And I haven't. It's been 21 years. And that's kind of my belief, is that you do not need to do that. You could work for yourself if you work hard enough. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. And I'm not saying you're going to make a lot of money. And I'm not saying that, you're even going to be happy. But you'll be happier and less stressed out and more in control of your life than you would be if you're working at corporate. Mm-hmm. And eventually the money will come if you stick long enough.
That is the issue, if you stick long enough. When people ask me about starting a business, I always say, well, how long can you go without a salary?
Yeah.
What gives you optimism, Jason?
These days, not that much.
Really?
I'm a very optimistic person, people will tell you. But I see so many bad things in the world these days. I don't want to, get political, so I'm not going to. But between all the wars and, the inequality and, racism and all the other issues that I'm seeing in the world, it's not looking great for the next generation. Think about it this way. The pandemic kind of destroyed any chance of college graduates to get jobs. So all the kids that are graduating college, they can't get jobs. So and AI is taking those we just talked about it. AI is taking the junior level, entry level jobs. That's the college level jobs, but they're not, where are the jobs? So everyone's getting internships. So the only optimism I could think of would be when AI and actual humanoid robots are really kind of in control of the tedious menial labor that nobody wants to do, whether it's household chores, all the entry-level jobs are taken, and it kind of opens up an infrastructure of finance that can allow people to get some sort of income every month from the government or from companies and be able to be more creative, more productive, spend more time with their friends and family, be more social, be less stressed out. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So I'm going to just keep my eyes on that optimism, is trying to think about what could happen if the people in power actually were doing the right thing, which is rare, but we have to hope for that. So that's the optimism I have, is hoping that they'll do the right thing and let us come along for the ride.
Now, shouldn't graduates and the youth entering the workforce use AI as a tool and adopt it? Therefore, when they go to the job interviews, when they do the jobs, here's how I'm going to use this tool to make my job and make this company better.
Absolutely. I mean, if I were anybody, it doesn't matter if you're a college graduate or like a senior citizen who's going back to work because you want to make some extra income or you're bored, use AI. It is just a tool. It's just like people who refuse to use smartphones or refuse to use the internet or refuse to use a car. They're just using their horse and buggy while the cars are driving past faster and getting deliveries to their businesses faster. You got to use AI to be a better person, but you should be learning a specific skill or set of skills. So make yourself indispensable and irreplaceable. That's what I've been telling everybody. If you don't make yourself irreplaceable, then why is someone going to hire you or even keep you after they hire you?
If you could solve one problem, Jason, like at scale, what would it be?
Oh my Lord, are you serious? One problem at scale?
Well, you just mentioned a bunch of problems right there.
Yeah, well, wealth inequality is the biggest one. I mean, we got all these billionaires and they're not, I saw an interview where Jeff Bezos said that if that he's being taxed enough, that if you tax him twice, it wouldn't help anybody. But the math is there. People did the math. If he did get taxed twice, you would end world hunger. You would end, free health care for everybody. You know what I mean?
But isn't that assuming that they would use that taxation money to solve those? I mean,
but you just said if I could solve anything, right? So if I could solve anything, it would be that the billionaires of the world,
yes,
automatically get like 50% of their yearly income sent to some nonprofit organization for the people, by the people, run by like the top 100 charitable organizations of the world or something. And their mission is to literally solve the problems of the world. And it would work. It would work because you would no longer have poor people. They would have some sort of income. Food would be free for them. Healthcare would be free. Education would be free. All these things would be free. And like, America's supposed to be the best country in the world, but man, there's a lot of freaking problems here. And I think inequality is one of the biggest ones.
I mean, it's a great idea, but I don't think organizations, I mean, they would have that money come in and they would use it selfishly, right? It would be how do you motivate those organizations receiving all this money to actually do that work would be the real kind of.
It would be part of the solution would be figuring that out. How would we do that properly? There's ways of doing things. I mean, there's a lot of great organizations out there that are doing really great things because they're really great people and they're genuinely compassionate people who have empathy for the world. When you have the people in power who are selfish, like you said, and greedy, and they don't care about anybody, well, of course they're not going to help. You got to find the people who do care. There's people out there. There's people like us out there.
Right.
We care.
That want to help the veterans, that want to help the underserved, the impoverished.
Yep.
So if we went back, like Jason, let's go back like 10 years, right? So you're 39, right? What's something you firmly believed then that you no longer believe now?
Something that I believed 10 years ago that I don't believe now. That's a good question. Because I've always been people always say I've lived in a fantasy world my whole life.
Who said this?
Everybody I know.
Come on. Every person has said to you live in a fantasy world.
Yes.
Why are you surrounding yourself with these kinds of people?
Well, because they live in reality.
Are you in a fantasy world?
I believe so.
I see. So it's a compliment. Interesting.
Yeah. I believe that I've always lived in some sort of fantasy world. Or I guess the way that I look at it is when people say, well, what is reality? Right? Reality is just your perception of what your surroundings are and what your life is. So my reality is completely different from everybody else's in that I don't feel as though I have a limitation on what I can create. Whereas other people, I've seen in my whole life, I've always had this idea for a book. Well, why don't you write it? I'm like, I don't know how to write a book, or I don't have time to write a book. Someone else will say, I've always wanted to start this business. I have an idea for a clothing line or, a dog grooming thing or whatever the idea is. Well, why aren't you doing it? Why don't you do? Oh, I don't know how to start. I'm too scared. I don't want to lose any money. I'm going to fail, And like, that's all I ever hear from people is they're scared. They don't want to lose time. They don't want to lose money. And they're complacent and they're just basically sheep, just like moving along with the rest of the world, which we need people to keep the world running. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you don't try to do anything, then what's the point? What is really the point? So they say I live in a fantasy world because like I'm doing all these insane things that most people can't do or have never done. I'm doing 20 lifetimes worth of stuff in one lifetime. And they're like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I don't have any other choice. So I guess something that I would have said back then that I'd be, okay, how about this? If you would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to meet and make a movie about NASA legends, I would have said you were full of BS. No, not going to happen. That's impossible because I've always wanted to do that, but never thought I could. That's a big. This last year has been a really big deal for me. So yeah, I would have said that's impossible. How do you do that? How do you talk to Gene Kranz? You know, it's impossible.
So freaking cool. That must have been incredible. Good for
Yeah,
you. Yeah. Is there a question you wish more people asked you?
yeah. How hard is it to do the things that I do? Like, how hard is it? And they don't ask me that. They just say, "Oh, it's so great. Well, I saw your movie, or your tech platform is amazing, and you know, that app you built, it's so much fun, or that book you wrote, it's so good. I learned so much." Well, not how hard was it? Like, what did it actually take to do all of the different things that I've done? And I think I talked about this once in a blog post that I wrote. Maybe even a podcast episode was a monologue where I was just telling people how it was years ago. And the word comes down to sacrifice. It's a heck of a lot of sacrifice. And what I mean by that is, if you look at a regular average guy my age, he's clocking in at his job every day, driving home, having dinner, watching sports, cracking open a beer, hanging out with his friends, hanging out with his wife, weekends with the kids, pumpkin patch picking, whatever, And it's a very regular routine of like the 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, come home, spend time with the wife and kids, movies, dinners, family getaways, and it's always that. When you are in my fantasy world, that reality doesn't exist because now you have to dedicate yourself to something for a year, 2 years, 5 years. And you don't have a lot of room to mess around. So weekends could be off limits. Weeknights might be off limits. Not saying that, they are. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of sacrifice. So let's say this weekend somebody says to me, "Hey, come over for a barbecue." Well, I'm like, I can't because I'm going to an event to promote the movie. Sacrifice. You know what I mean? So, like, do I want to be at the event? Sure. I get to promote the movie, and people are going to, buy T-shirts or books or buy tickets to the movie, and I get to promote it. So get more people to come to the movie. But I could have also went to the barbecue, but I got to choose between the two. A lot of times, if I'm, really deep into development for a tech platform, and it's like super, super critical that I'm there for like 6 months in a row without stopping, I can't just pick up and go to go do something, because if a critical failure happens on the server or something and I'm not there to fix it, I was out partying, well, then, there's that. Also, money, right? You can't just go blowing money on trips away on the weekends. And I hear people spending $5,000 on trips to Disney World, and I'm like, but then they're broke the rest of the year. And I'm like, I'm spending that $5,000 on my business so I can grow the business. And so that sacrifice, less vacations, and I can go on and on and on, give you more examples, but it's really dedication.
Yeah, well said. People don't realize that too with entrepreneurs, how much. I remember when I first started my business, my friends would say to me, "It must be great not having a boss." I said, "I have more bosses than I've ever had in my life. Why would you think? I mean, every one of my clients is my boss, to some degree, my employees, so the vendors, the banks, the vendors. Yeah, do not do that. It's very." Yeah, there's a huge sacrifice there to family and friends in these kinds of events. Speaking of which, Jason, I started my business back in the 90s. I was in my 20s. I'm just a little bit older than you. And I was working 14, 16-hour days. You're no stranger to this. And putting my diet and exercise behind me. And next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor and she tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained
Wow.
all this. I knew I was getting big, didn't think I was that big. And she says to me, "If you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate." My daughter was just born. Not only did it scare me, but it aggravated me, right? It made me mad. So I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel. You know, this is my pie hole. I could do whatever I want with myself, but it's much bigger than me. You know, it's my decisions don't just affect me anymore.
Right.
Spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 120 pounds, and
Wow.
I kept it off. So you can't look at these things as finishing lines, right? These are lifelong changes you have to make.
Correct.
There's nothing temporary about them. So when I tell people this, they always say, "What's your secret? What you do?" I say, "There's no secret, just discipline, right? Routine, focus, motivation, order, etc." How does discipline play a role in your life, Jason Sherman?
That's the same exact thing. I mean, I was overweight and health was suffering. Same
Were you
exact
really?
thing. Yep. In my 30s, my 20s definitely took a toll on my 30s. And I was definitely not as much as you, but I was overweight. My health was not doing so great. And I'm just like being an entrepreneur and sacrificing and dedicating myself. It was the same thing. I was like, I got to learn everything about health and diet, even in being a vegan at one point, and really trimming down all the extra weight. And I still struggle, it's like you said, it's lifelong. Like, do I want to eat that brownie? Do I want to eat that cake? Do I want to eat that ice cream? Yes, but I know that I can't do it. Yeah. So I'm going to go grab that piece of fruit, and it's hard, because everyone always says, you only live once, you only live once. So but I want to live a long time. You know what I mean? I don't want to, a friend of mine, God rest her soul, just died last week or 2 weeks ago. It was terrible. She's only 50. And I went to the funeral and everyone was, shocked. Like, how does somebody die that young? And I'm like, it really puts things into perspective that you really can go at any moment, right, whether it's an accident or, health related. So discipline, working out a couple days a week in my home gym, going for 1 mile walks 2 to 3 times a day. Every single morning when I wake up at 7:30, I do yoga in my basement. I drink a lot of water and I don't drink soda. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't do drugs. I, try to eat as healthy as I possibly can. Lots of vegetables, and try to spend time with friends and family. Just go outside and smell the damn trees. Look at the birds out my window. Just literally trying to enjoy and it's funny because I think, and this is probably true, like the majority of people on this planet probably forget on a regular basis that we're on a planet. They forget to zoom out. I love to zoom out. I go outside, look at the sky or at the stars at night, and I'm like, wow, we're really just floating around this massive, endless, expanding universe. And if you zoom out and realize how precious and fragile we all are, you care about everything just a little bit more,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you certainly do. So as a child, your parents were educators, you were violin, you were doing all these things. Was discipline talked about or was just kind of exemplified, or how was it discussed in the household?
That's a question no one's ever asked me. It's a good question. And it wasn't so much as it was, talked about to my brother and I. We just thought that that's the way it was.
Right.
Like, when my friends were going out to play, literally, my mom said, no, you have to go practice playing the violin, or you have to do your homework, or you have to study for that test, or study for the SAT, or whatever it was, or you have a concert coming up, you got to practice. I was the first violin. I was the concert master.
Wow. So
I had to set an example for everybody else. So I had to be like up, and I was very resentful. I'll admit, my friends were constantly going out to play, knocking on the door, asking for me, and I was practicing. So I thought that that's just the way it had to be. I didn't know any better. As I got older, once I got to college, that kind of went out the window for a while. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have fun. So that's kind of why things kind of, I feel like I should have maybe held on to some of those, attributes that I had growing up. But I felt like I was kind of trapped a little bit, and I felt like I needed to explore myself and the world a little bit. But, it is what it is. You can't change what you did. You know what I mean?
As I talk to you, Jason, it's the art versus science question. How often, when you're making a decision on the things you do you bring in your gut? I mean, you have a lot of math. You're very, I see that, but obviously you're making films. You're playing violin. There's lots of art there. So how do you marry those two?
That's another good question. I mean, really, it comes down to how do you connect to your audience?
Mm,
Because that's what everything is. If you think about it, whether you're selling a food product or a new shirt line or anything, how do you connect? That's what brand companies have like spent their entire careers trying to figure out. So it doesn't matter what it is, and your gut definitely plays a role. Although I've always been known to say data-driven decisions are key.
mm,
Because if you have data to support your theory, you can say, well, I think or I believe that we should be going in this direction for this ad campaign, and here's why. We did some A/B testing, and the A/B testing shows that this is really the way to go. So let's really go heavy on that angle and see if it works. So, but then with experience, there's this whole thing about how long have you been doing something for?
mm,
And then you know without a doubt it's the right answer or the right move because you've done it so many times. That's when you don't really have to think about the data anymore.
mm.
There's certain things you teach your team, you teach your employees, you teach your interns. Here's how I've made movies my whole life. Here's how I've built tech platforms. Here's how I've marketed products. Here's how I've written books. Here's how I've done this. And you show them your process, right? They learn your process. And you'll see something magical happen. If they're really talented and skilled and willing to learn and be a better version of themselves, they'll come back to you with fine-tuned processes. And they'll say, well, I did everything you said, but I found this to be a better, more effective way to do this one thing. That's better than I would have done. Great. Awesome. Now I'll take that little piece and add it to my tool belt, and now I can do that a little better. So that's what you want. You want people who are going to do better than you in some ways. Obviously, you still have to be the smartest guy in the room, because if not, then you're in trouble. If you have all these people that are, I don't know, when everyone always says you want to get all these smart people around you, I get what they mean by that, because I've been in rooms with people who were smarter than me a million times over, especially when I interviewed at Google. But there's a problem with that. Your voice is really not heard anymore.
Mm.
And that's a real problem for someone like me who likes to create things. If my voice is no longer heard, then I'm obsolete. I'm irrelevant. So I'd rather be the one who's able to produce the results and not be the one who's just raising his hand to try to chime in here and there,
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. There's a rumor that Google asks every candidate what they would do in a zombie apocalypse.
Huh.
Did they ask you?
I got the one, the question I got was, how would I, granted this was 11 years ago, how would I get internet to work in places that don't have internet?
Huh.
That was the question that I got. They did say that I was googly, which they don't say to everybody. That was a really cool, when I heard the lady said, oh, you're googly, because I play the violin, I'm a filmmaker. That means you're googly. So I was happy to hear that. They did ask a lot of cool, it was a lot of, the interview process is like a week long. So there's a lot of questions, man. They want you to write the answers on a whiteboard and really spell out how you're getting to the answer and not just hear the answer.
Mm.
They want to see your process of thinking of how you get to the answer. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that
was cool.
So getting back to science versus art, like how much of your life is one over the other, do you think?
It's always going to be a mix of both, man.
Yeah, of course.
It's a 50-50 because I went to college for computer information systems management. So like I've always been a technology guy. Ever since I was like, I think I was like 6, 7, or 8, might have been 6. I programmed a happy birthday hot air balloon for one of my teachers on a computer. So like the birthday present was like, here's this big hot air balloon that says happy birthday on like a pixel, program. So when I did that, I remembered, oh my God, I can make a computer do all these things. It's kind of cool. But then again, I liked making music, and I liked the traditional arts, being able to, write a book or make a graphic for a poster for a movie or, anything. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm never going to be able to do one or the other. It's just never going to, because now that I'm good at all of them, I can just use them all at the same time,
And that's the secret sauce to success there, bringing them both together, I think. Yeah. What motivates you, Jason?
It's going to be a strange answer, I think.
There's no wrong answer, my friend.
It's going to be strange because I don't think anyone ever says this, but this is truly how I feel. My number one motivator is helping people. So if I can always be in a position to help other people succeed in whatever way they want to succeed, that's what motivates me to do well in my career so that I can then help other people do the same. It's the thing that I like doing because I know what it's like trying to do things on my own. I didn't have a lot of help. I know what it's like trying to ask people for help and trying to find mentors. And they're, like you said, greedy, selfish, closed off, that kind of thing. And it's hard to find good help. And I always said to myself, if I'm in a position where I can help other people, that's what I'm going to do.
You didn't say it, but I heard impact.
Yep. That's what it is.
So given that as a motivation, how do you measure success?
It's another good question. I mean, a lot of people will probably say success is how much money you made. That's not true. You could be the richest person in the world and still commit suicide because you're miserable.
Most are.
Most are. I'd say success is happiness. How happy are you with, your daily life? The people that you surround yourself with, your freedom. Freedom equals success. Like if you're free to make your own schedule and do the creative projects that make you happy, then you succeeded, my friend. You succeeded. And that's how I look at it. For me, it's all about freedom. Being able to wake up every day, not having to answer to somebody, and be able to create whatever I want.
You taking inventory often to see how happy you are?
Every day.
How's that measured?
Well, I write in a journal. I meditate. I think about things. I look at the things that I've accomplished versus the things that I want to accomplish. I set goals for myself, and I still challenge myself on a regular basis. Sometimes I do things just because I can or I want to, not because I want to earn money because of it. I just want to do it. A lot of times people say, well, why'd you build that platform? Or why'd you do this? Or why'd you do that? Because I can. Because I want to. That's why I got to keep doing things. I have to keep challenging myself. I have to keep learning something. Even every day I still learn something new. Even if I'm just reading something and researching, So yeah, you have to keep pushing yourself. Again, why are we here? If not to play pickleball? No. I'm not doing that.
For some, perhaps. Yeah, not me.
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah, well, I love it. I love to get exercise, of course, but yeah, it's certainly not the purpose. Absolute pleasure talking with you, Jason. I was so excited when we set this up. If anybody's watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Probably on socials, through my website, jasonsherman.org, because I'm very active on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. My AI agent on my website, they can talk to it, and it'll, answer your questions just like I would. so you can kind of get some help if you need it, and then leave your name and email and phone number, and I'll get back to you that way as well. And yeah, check out all my different platforms and products and services, and so you can see what I built and what I do, and check out my movie. If you're in the Philadelphia area, come to the screening. It's only one night only, July 18th, so definitely come to that. beforethemoonfilm.com. Check out the trailer. And yeah, that's about it.
Jason, I thank you so much for your time. Next time I'm in the greater Philly area, perhaps we'll get a cup of tea.
Sounds good. I love tea, man.
Sounds good. You be well.
You too, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.